Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamu alaikum, dear participants. Welcome to this session of Self-Improvement, the Quran series. We had started to study a passage from Surah Bani Isra'il, the 17th Surah of the Quran, yesterday. Today we are going to study its second part, and inshallah, tomorrow we will finish this whole passage. So today's verses are from 26 to 32. I'm just going to read out the text and translation. وآتِ ذا القربى حقه والمسكين وابن السبيل ولا تبذر تبذيرا إن المبذرين كانوا إخوان الشياطين وكان الشيطان لربه كفورا. Give to the near of kin his due, and also to the destitute and the traveler, and do not squander your wealth wastefully, for the wasteful are brothers of devils, and the devil is extremely ungrateful to his Lord. So this is the series that we had started off of directives which the Almighty gave regarding morality. You would remember that we started off with the directive of monotheism, Tawheed, and right after that to the directive to worship God alone, and then to fulfill the rights of the parents. So now we proceed with that list, and it is in the same vein that it is said that just as you treat your parents with kindness, and before that you give God his due by worshiping him, by serving him alone, in a very similar way, now you come to your near of kin. So you see this beautiful gradation, this sequence can be gauged from the Quran, that God, parents, and then the extended family and people that we know of through our blood relations, and as well as people who are underprivileged. So give to the near of kin his due, and also to the destitute and the traveler. This goes without saying that the section of the society which are deprived of the basic necessities at times, which are not able to make their ends meet, who are in a position of not being able to cater for their own needs, we all know that as far as they are concerned, they are the responsibility of the state that they live in. But at times, the state is also not able to fulfill its responsibilities, and it asks for charity from its citizens, and the citizens are also, as a result, not only they give this extra charity, but they also give directly to those in need. So this is what is being said here, that don't forget your near of kin and the destitute, people who are needy, and the traveler. So as far as the word traveler is concerned, it might not be something that we may be used to, but in the times of the Quran, a traveler and a person who would go from one place to another would be in a lot of bother. He would be in a lot of discomfort. He would be at the mercy of the people who would be living in the next city. It's not always the case that you would be having places to stay or friends or relatives there. So you would be generally at the mercy of the people who would be living in that city. So it is said that for such people, it is best that you give them their due, you give them what you can. And of course, the opposite of this is that then mentioned, that is that don't squander your wealth. Do not waste your wealth. Because if you start wasting your wealth, you will not have anything left for such people. And not only that, squandering wealth is against your inner purification. It takes you away from God. It makes you a person who shows off his wealth, or a person who is not careful about the treasures which we have from the Almighty. And if the Almighty has given us in abundance, then instead of squandering that wealth and those assets, the obligation that we owe to them is to share them with other people, is to have them at the disposal of other people. In fact, the Quran has told us at one instance that if we save up wealth, which is besides our personal and private and business needs, whether of the present or of the future, and if we still save that money, or we still tend to gather that money or accumulate that money, then this is something which is really, really despicable in the eyes of God. And on the day of judgment, this wealth would be heated, these assets and these coins of gold and silver, which are in excess of our personal needs, whether of present or of future, of our private or our business needs. And it will be used to stamp the bodies of people who had hoarded them. So hoarding wealth is something which the Almighty has said it's such a proscribed thing. And on the other hand, Squandering wealth, which is the other extreme, that you start wasting wealth, you start spending them on needs which are trivial, and the purpose is to either show off or be reckless. This is something which the Almighty does not like. And look what he has said. He said that people who squander wealth are the brothers of devils. Kanu ikhwana shayateen. And the biggest attribute of Satan is that wakana shaytanu li rabbihi kafura, that he is ungrateful to his Lord. He is someone who would not like to acknowledge the blessings of the Almighty. And then وَإِمَّا تُعْرِضَنَّ عَنْهُ ابْتِغَاءَ رَحْمَةً مِّن رَّبِّكَ تَرْجُوهَا فَقُلَّ لَهُمْ قَوْلًا مَيْسُورًا. And if you have to disregard those in need because you are still seeking your Lord's bounty, which you are hopeful of, then speak to them softly. So again, something which is taught to us, very, very basic etiquette that we have to uphold is that as far as spending on such occasions is concerned, if one is constrained, one is not able to do so, then it would not be correct to scold people or to tell them off or to speak with them harshly. The Quran says that if you are waiting for wealth that might arrive for you from God, or you might be earning it in future, and you are not in a position to help others, then please be polite to people who refuse. And the words used are فَقُلَّ لَهُمْ قَوْلًا مَيْسُورًا. Speak to them in soft and gentle words. This softness and gentleness is something that we have to always cultivate in ourselves. We have to understand that when we speak harshly to people who are in need, then this is something which damages their self-esteem, which is really something which is unbecoming of us. We have to understand that God has given us blessings. God has blessed us with a lot of abilities. He's blessed us with wealth and so many other things. And if we are to use them, then we have to understand that should not go to the extent that we start wasting them. We have to spend on other people who are in need as well. And at the same time, if we are waiting for some of the money that you would like to spend on others to arrive, then the thing that we have to understand is that we have to speak to them in very polite terms. We refuse them in a very polite way. ولا تجعل يدك مغلولة إلى عنقك ولا تبسطها كل البسط فتقعد ملوما محسورا. Neither tie your hand with the neck, nor leave it totally loose, that you earn reproach and be reduced to indigence. So again, moderation is being taught here. Neither tie your hand to the neck means don't become stingy. And the other opposite is that you start spending on all sorts of things. وَلَا تَبْسُطْهَا كُلَّ الْبَسْطِ, that you totally, lose control, and you earn reproach, which means that, of course, when people come to you, then you're not in a position to help them. So you see, God Almighty would like us to save not only for our personal needs and, of course, our future and present needs, but also to save for charity. Because this is what the Quran is telling us here, that look, when the time arrives that you would like to spend in charity, just because of squandering wealth, you are not in a position to help out other people. So save for the purpose of helping out it also. Otherwise, you will end up in reproach. You'll end up being blameworthy. And of course, the middle point has to be adopted, which is moderation. We must not go to extremes. And in both cases, we have to understand that as far as wealth is concerned, it's always good to understand and to realize that we must not shy away even if we have little to give to other people. Shying away if we have little to give to other people at times gets the better of us, because we think that if we don't have enough to share, then we feel a little ashamed. But this is not what God wants us. He wants us to spend whatever we can for His cause, for the needs of the society. And it's not the amount as much as the intention and the availability of that amount is concerned, and our willingness to spend it. So moderation, of course, is something which is championed by the Quran. But at the same time, this should not be a reason for us to shy away if we have a small amount to give for the cause of God and for the needs of the society. And then, Inna rabbaka yabsutu rizqa liman yasha'u wa yaqdir innahu kana bi'ibadihi khabiran basira. It is indeed your Lord who gives abundantly to whomsoever he pleases and sparingly to whomsoever he pleases. He surely is aware of his servants, he is observing them. So the Almighty has sounded this assurance also, and is also a sort of warning that whatever he gives out of his own wisdom. At times he gives abundantly, at times he gives sparingly, and he gives abundantly to those to check if they share whatever they have, and he gives sparingly to those if to check if they're still out of their gratitude to God, or they're still thankful to him, and at the same time whatever they can spare from that small amount, they don't withhold that amount. So has to be something which we always cherish, that to spend for the cause of God, spend for the poor, and spend for the needy should always be something which should be part of our life. In fact, we should be looking for opportunities to find people who we can reach out to, who we can help. So remember, in a society in which people are needy, people are indigent, people are destitute, there are so many people who might come to you and who might ask you for your needs. And of course, this is something that we would all, we will get to know that a person is in need. But more than that, what is more essential is that there is a chunk of the society, and I dare say it's a big chunk, which would not come to you to ask for their needs, because such is the self-esteem that they have, that they might go empty stomach at night than to come to you and ask for their needs. So it is incumbent upon us and people who are in a position to help out other people, that instead of waiting for them to come to you, you have to go and reach out to them, because they are not going to come to you in any case. They have that self-esteem in themselves. So it is essential that we see that this passage of the Quran is basically asking us to give our due to the kins, our near and kin. And of course, we also have to understand that this charity, as is the famous adage, it begins with home. This charity begins at home, which means that we have to start off with our nearest relatives, we have to start off with our parents, we have to start off with our closest relatives, and then from the next closest to the next closest, we move on. And another thing which the Quran has mentioned elsewhere, when it speaks of charity and the way it has spoken of here, is that no display of wealth or no display of spending in the way of God should be made. So at another instance, which is very close to what the Quran has said here regarding charity, the Quran tells us, "La tubtilu sadaqatikum bil manni wal aza," which means that believers, you should not render your charity as useless by reminding others of your generosity. So reminding others of one's generosity also is something that we have to take care of, and we must not keep on reminding people for what good we had been to them. So this is something which would of course be against the very objective for which we are required to spend. So this spending is between oneself and one's God. However, if we start reminding other people of these favors, then it just loses its whole utility. And at the same time, we have to realize that we must also not show off this charitable behavior, this generosity. So flaunting generosity and flaunting this behavior again is unbecoming. So this passage, this particular passage that we have just studied today, it has generally given us this message that we have to devote ourselves, the wealth that we have, which we can spare for the society that we live in. We must be moderate in our spending, and also we have to realize that our closest relatives are the ones who have the most right on us. So we have an obligation to them. And at the same time, this passage also tells us that we have to save for spending. So just as we save for other needs, we must save for charity as well, so that whenever someone comes up with his need or her need, we are in a position to spend it. And also, we must not complain to the Almighty, because it is the Almighty who gives sparingly and abundantly according to his wisdom. Whatever we have, whether it's in abundance, whether it's in scarcity, we have to spend whatever we are able to and must not withhold that. So this brings us to an end to this session of this of today, and also, inshallah, to this passage second part, and tomorrow we'll take up its third part. And now we can open up the question answer session.
Assalamu alaikum, everyone. Dr. Saleem, once again, thank you very much. And when I say thank you, I say it on my, it's a personal thank you, and I'm sure on behalf of all the participants. A lot of work, effort, and energy goes into preparing these talks, which you do for us. And I think it's human nature that when we get something for free, we slowly just take it for granted, and we lose the bigger picture, we lose the gratitude. It's just human nature that everything that we get for free, be it Dr. Saleem's lectures or the air we breathe or the light we see or the heart that works for us, our liver, our organs, we just take them for free. We mustn't forget that your ayat today opens up with give to the next of kin his due, and I think gratitude is a big part of it. So after that deep philosophical insight, we'll open the floor for questions. First question is by Noshiba Wasim. Please unmute yourself and ask your question, Noshiba.
Assalamu alaikum, sir. So my question is, if somebody asks you for help and you know that person is not honest and that person is not doing for his job, like he don't want to work, and it's easy for her to asking for help again and again. So what should our attitude should be at that point?
I think it's a difficult call. I mean, when you know that a person has made it a habit to ask and he or she is not willing to do that hard work, that is something that we must all do. I think that at times that if you withhold that help and also maybe give her a few words, or that person a few words, and tell that person that, I mean, helping is one thing, but to give your own effort in doing whatever you can is the first thing that you have to do. I think that is something that you can always do. So it's not always the fact that you just spend or give whenever someone comes and asks you, because you see people take advantage, and this should not be done. And if you feel that someone is taking undue advantage, you can, always talk to that person, tell that person that, and this is not right, and you can maybe give a warning or so that if you do it again, that I'm just going to stop helping you. So I think these are ways and means that you can adopt depending on the situation and the background of the person who is in need.
Mm-hmm. So one thing come in my mind, we heard from the last verses that if somebody asks you for a help, so you should help that person. So is that okay if we say no because we feel like that person is not eligible for that kind of help? So because in last verses,
the Quran doesn't say that you have to help every person who comes to you. You have to help the genuine person who comes to you, the person who is really in need. So if a person has taken to beggary as a profession, as is the case with our professional beggars, which are found in many societies, whether it's the East or the West, it's perfectly okay to refuse that person. But the only thing that perhaps we should do is, or it's highly recommended that we do, is that we refuse that person very politely in a very gentle way. But refusing and not giving what the person is asking is it's our prerogative. It's something we can always do when we should do our due diligence in finding out if that person deserves our help or not. And in the second place, we are not always in a position to help everyone. So you have to at times refuse even people who are genuine. So only the mannerism of refusal should be that it should be very polite, as the Quran had just said, that we studied those verses. وَقُلْ لَهُمْ قَوْلًا مَيْسُورًا. So speak to them in a very soft word and just gently refuse that you're not able to help them.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you very much. Next in queue is Samra Harun. Please unmute yourself and ask your question.
Assalamu alaikum, sir. Sir, I have a two-pronged question. If the first part is that if someone close to us hurts our feelings, and we refrain from replying to them and instead ask God to deal with them in the hereafter, and to give us justice in that world instead of here, will that constitute as sabr, and will it give us any rewards in the hereafter? And on the other hand, if with an open heart we forgive them for Allah's sake, and do not ask for any kind of justice. We just want to, have a big heart and want to, for Allah's sake, we want to forgive them. Will this give us any reward in the hereafter, the act of forgiveness? Any nekiyan?
Of course,
Thank you,
the second option that you just said is much more rewarding, because in that case you are forgiving that person. Of course, that's going to be very rewarding for you. As for the first option, in which you are, not taking any revenge, or you're not talking back to that person, all that you're saying is that God, on the day of judgment, you decide this case between myself and that person. So this would, of course, constitute patience and perseverance on your part. But in that case, you would not be forgiving your offender. So, it's up in the hereafter. Again, God will ask you, because you see, in matters in which people offend other people, even if you refer them to God on the day of judgment, He's going to refer it back to you and ask you whether you would like to forgive him, or you would like to continue with your revenge or pay back in equal coins. So the decision would be still left to you. But yes, one thing that will happen is that at least in this world, you would not be doing anything. So yes, I would say that this will also be rewarding to some extent. So these are three options that you have. You either totally forgive that person, or you forgive that person just for this world, or you say that, okay, in the hereafter, I'm going to, really talk to you, but for the moment, I'm just going to forgive you. So, it's entirely up to you. But forgiving is the most recommended thing, which the Quran says. And at one instance, it says that you forgive such people, then it is God who's going to reward you.
Oh, so that is much more, that should be our aim.
Yeah, much more lucrative.
Yeah, exactly. Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir. Jazakallah khair.
Thank you very much. Ubaid, can you ask the next question, please?
मेरा सवाल है, तहज्जुद और नफिल नमाज के हवाले से क्या हम एक रकात अदा कर सकते हैं?
I think tahajjud and nafil, they are the same. Tahajjud it just means that you are praying in odd numbers. So nafil, we just have two types of prayer. One is the salatul maktuba, which is the mandatory prayer, and the other is salatul tatawwu, which is the optional prayer, or the one that you offer from your own accord. So witr is the number of rakats that you pray. If you pray witr, it's going to be an odd number. And I don't think that there is anything as one witr. It has to start with three. You have to have something before one which makes it odd. So when the Prophet has said awtir bi wahida, when there is this saying that you make your even rakats odd by a single rakat, he actually says that you offer a third rakat. So people have misconstrued, I think, this saying of the Prophet, and they think that one witr is also sufficient. Whereas what he meant, in my understanding, is that awtir bi wahida, which means that you make your two nafils odd by offering a third one. So the minimum is three.
अगर उसके अलावा ऐसे ही हम किसी और टाइम पे एक रकात अदा करें तो हो जाएगी?
No, that is not correct. The minimum amount of prayer is 2 rakats.
Okay, thank you very much. Moving on, next question is from Baran Nashur. Unmute yourself, please.
My question was about, I live in the Netherlands, and it is very difficult to get your hands on halal meat. And the halal meat that is available in my area, it is questionable if it's actually halal slaughtered in a halal manner. They say it is, and they have like certain certificates, but it's not very clear, if you understand. So what should one do if we are in this situation? Is it then bad if we consume non-halal meat?
Well, in the first instance, there has to be some reason for you to distrust their certificate. Unless you are very sure, just having a doubt is not sufficient. I think in most cases, if they give you this assurance, either through written or maybe an oral assurance that this is halal meat, I think you should trust them. Unless, of course, there is something or some evidence that comes up. Other than that, if this is the case, if you think that it's very doubtful and it is better to leave it, then I think the option that you have is to eat vegetarian food or maybe eat fish. But this is not reason enough for you to consume non-halal food.
Okay, yeah. The reason was that I have someone who works at the slaughter, and he told me that the imam comes once a day to say the dua for all the animals for the entire day, and I don't think that makes it halal for every single animal that's slaughtered.
So as I said, this is something of a detail which a worker has told you. He could be correct. He could be talking about a single slaughterhouse. There are so many other slaughterhouses as well. So I think what perhaps you should do is you trust the certificate or their assurance in this regard. And if you think that is, doubtful, then as I said, the other option is to eat vegetarian food or have fish.
All right. And one other question I heard from another scholar, that he said if you live in a Christian or Jewish country, you can eat their meat. But is that correct?
Well, you can eat their meat if it is slaughtered in the proper way. So, as far as the Jews are concerned, they eat kosher, and kosher is slaughtered in the proper way. But the meat which is slaughtered by Christian brothers generally is not, done in the way that has been prescribed by the Quran and by the Sunnah of the Prophet, which means that you have to slaughter the animal not only by taking God's name, but also to slaughter them in a way that all the blood flows out. So this is something which they don't do. So, if you're living in a country like where Jews and Christians are in abundance, so unless you are consuming meat from the Jews, which, as I said, is absolutely perfect or okay, taking meat from the Christians, because we know this is something which they express openly, that they don't slaughter in the name of God, and they stun the animal also at times. So therefore, it's not permissible to take meat from them.
All right. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you for that question. Next one is Naveed Irfan. Fire away your question, please.
अस्सलाम वालेकुम वरहमतुल्लाह।
वालेकुम अस्सलाम।
जी डॉक्टर साहब, ये जो 3 रकात वित्र है, इसमें कुछ मतलब हिकमत बताई गई है कि इसको 3 क्यों पढ़ते हैं?
So what we have been made to understand is that God is one and He prefers odd numbers. Because He Himself is an odd number, one is an odd number, so it is something that He likes, that things should be odd. So therefore, precisely for this reason, we have the day's prayers end on an odd prayer, which is the Maghrib prayer, which is 3, and similarly we have the night's prayer end on an odd number, which is a Tahajjud prayer. Of course, it could be 3, 5, or 7, or any odd number. So the hikmah that comes to mind is that the Almighty Himself prefers odd numbers because He Himself is an odd number.
तो फिर मतलब फिर 4 रकात नमाज है होती है ज़ोहर में, असर में, इशा में, फजर में 2
doesn't mean that every rakat or every namaz has to be in odd numbers. It is just it's just a reminder. It serves as a reminder that God is one. So you see, reminders are always subtle and they're always meant to be like a symbolic expression of things. So when things become symbolic, it's not that you have to do it all the time.
Shukriya.
बहुत शुक्रिया. Thank you. Next question is from Samra Harun, please.
Assalamualaikum, sir. Sir, on the question of zabiha meat, is hand slaughtering a must or machine slaughtering is fine as well if it's done the halal way?
Yeah, of course. Machine slaughtering is fine if it is done in the right way. It's not that you have to slaughter it by your hand. This is any way of slaughter can be adopted as long as the conditions are fulfilled.
Yeah. The certificates, most of them, the certificates say slaughtered by zabiha process, but some have started labeling them as hand slaughtered, and many Muslims consider it more authentic that this is hand slaughter, so this is consumable for us.
There's no difference between hand slaughter and machine slaughter as long as the conditions are met.
Thank you very much. Tariq Javed, please ask your question.
Doctor, my question is not regarding a charity. It is regarding the earnings. And my question is, in fact, on behalf of the youngsters, they should be thinking to be rich in their life, or should they be contented if they are good enough to be rich? To be trying to be wealthy is a bad idea or a good idea?
We have to talk to them in a way that we tell them that as far as earning wealth is concerned, there's nothing wrong with it. However, if there is a clash between the priorities of the hereafter and this world, we should always prefer the hereafter. I think if this priority in life is somehow they are made to understand this, then if they earn money and they live in a in a lifestyle in which the earned money is not only spent on their own selves, but is also shared by them with other people who are underprivileged. So it is nothing wrong with that. I mean, earning money as a target is something which at times makes you oblivious of your responsibilities. But to be a person who would like to be a rich person, there's nothing wrong with this, I would say, objective. But as I said, if this objective is clashing in any way with the priorities and the requisites of the hereafter, then they should be told that, I mean, it should be kept subservient to these needs.
Well, I would tend to think that, as you said, if you meet all the criteria, you earn halal, you make all the efforts for halal, and you do all the charities, and you all are doing the good deeds with the poor people. It gives you an opportunity to donate more, to do more charity. So in that way, there's nothing wrong with that.
Yes, there's nothing wrong with it.
Okay, thank you, sir.
Thank you, Dr. Saleem. We have a question. Do we have time for one more written question, or do you want to leave it till tomorrow?
So we have time.
Okay, that's great stuff. So this is a written question. I'll read this out to you. Salam, I have a question on the 6 days of Nafal fasting on Shawwal. I have seen a lot of mixed information on correctly participating on the month of Shawwal, especially for people who miss their Ramadan fast due to illness or menstruation. Some say that it is possible to combine the Shawwal and Ramadan fast, but others say that it is not possible because one is a Nafal fast and the other one is Fard. Which is the right way of approaching these fasts?
Well, the Prophet has said that a person who fasts the 30 days of Ramadan and then follows them up with 6 days of Shawwal, and he's given a very high reward. So, I mean, if have you fasted in Ramadan and you're following that up with 6 days of Shawwal, this is the best possible thing. But we should remember that these Shawwal fasts are all nafil, they're all optional. So, I mean, it's not that you have to always observe them, but as much as you can, even if you're not you have not been able to fast in Ramadan, but somehow you were able to fast in the month of Shawwal. So, I mean, what you can do is you can compensate for the month of Ramadan by offering, by actually fasting 6 days and requesting God that these should be counted as your obligation that you missed, and maybe also give you reward for fasting in the month of Shawwal because of the fact that you were not able to do so in Ramadan. So I would say that there is no hard and fast rule, and that is why you have this mixed information. So you see, having this mixed information is not a problem because these are leverages and latitudes which are given by God and the Prophet. So you can adopt either of the paths, but the best way is that you follow up the you follow your Ramadan fast by these 6 fasts. But if you have not been able to fast in Ramadan due to any reason, and you would like to make them up in other parts of the year, then you should start as soon as possible. And of course, that is Shawwal, which is right after Ramadan.
Thank you very much, Dr. Saleem. Thank you, all the participants. I think those are all the questions we had. Assalamu alaikum to everyone, and thank you.